Market snaps three-day losing streak on the back of global equities rally. The Sensex gains nearly 500 points and Nifty ends near 10,900.
Reliance is the top Nifty contributor, rising 3% ahead of its earnings. Positive outlook by CLSA and Goldman Sachs also boosts the stock in trade today.
The CPI inflation falls to an 18-month low for December, but core CPI inflation remains high at 5.7%. That pulls up yields. Bank stocks underperform in response, with public sector banks bearing the brunt. Canara Bank, IDBI, Punjab National Bank end in the red.
IT stocks hit top gears. The rupee weakens. The Nifty IT index outperforms key indices to gain 3%. It's the top gainer today. Wipro tops the charts in terms of specific stocks on the IT pack. There's, of course, the talk of a bonus issue. TCS and Infosys also clock strong gains.
Yes Bank extends its gains on reports that Deutsche Bank's Ravneet Gill is probably leading the race to succeed Rana Kapoor as CEO of that bank. ICICI Securities stumbles over 6% after a disappointing third quarter, but Zee gains 2% ahead of reporting a spike in subscription revenue. The numbers came after market hours. Well, those were the top 5 headlines from Dalal Street. Hello and welcome to Markets Today Talk Back, the show where we tell you all that happened in those 6 hours of trading in just 5 headlines. And today, those headlines, as you saw, are brimming with bullishness. I'm Lata Venkatesh, with me my colleague Prashant Nair. Hi, Prashant.
Lata, hi. And all thanks to, the global mood changing and changing how. It looked good at one point in mid-afternoon and then it looked even better by 3:30 at close. We will discuss all of that. We'll, over the next 30 minutes, talk about the drivers, the stories which mattered, the stocks which mattered, and we'll take questions. Joining us to help answer questions that you send us, our IIFL Sanjeev Bhasin, technical expert Mitesh Thakkar is with us as well. Sanjeev, Mitesh, thanks very much for joining in. But let's, as always, spend 2 minutes looking at the day gone by and what really drove things. Lata.
Well, as you said, the market started in a positive mood because Asia was in full cry, or the bulls were in full cry in Asia. Actually, there were Brexit worries and they had put behind a Dow that was not doing too well. But Asia was just moving in its own steam. And actually, early European trades also were in the green, despite Brexit worries taking away a little bit of the shine. So it's that backdrop which helped us. The currency as well was a big help. Monday selling that we saw yesterday had also brought the indices to very attractive support levels. Very close to the 10,700 mark at 10,692. Yesterday's low, there was significant buying and the index had, although it ended in the red yesterday, was about 50 points from the day's low. So it was poised to, it was at the lower end of its trading band. The weaker rupee was a big boost to tech stocks, but above all was the support that came from Reliance. The numbers are due on Thursday. Financial companies, the lower CPI was actually dibbly-dobbly. It was not a very big support. Some of the banks ended lower because some people have chosen to interpret the inflation number negatively. Nevertheless, there was a little bit of green, but the big support came from Reliance, surging 3% and almost single-handedly, or perhaps with a little bit help from Infosys, accounting for a large part, a majority of the gains notched up by the Nifty. But more stock-specific gains.
Mid-caps, small-caps also did well, Lata. So 1.25% gains there. I think what was clear by way of being absent was banks. The bank Nifty was up 0.5% on a strong day like today. So there was not that much contribution. And I would say that even the advanced decline for a market which ended up 150 points maybe left a little bit to be desired, because about 1,050 stocks higher, 650 stocks lower. It was comfortably advances, comfortably higher than declines, but it wasn't that big a gap as bulls would like it to be. Sectors: IT, energy, real estate, which topped the list in terms of what did well. And a lot of IT stocks, and just Nifty names: Wipro, Tech Mahindra, Infosys, TCS. All of them up strongly. Reliance, of course, started participating early on, and by close it was up 3%. And then there was a Yes Bank, which is up 4%. Just sticking to Nifty for now. Okay, so in the broader space, I mean, there were losers as well, but in the 0.5%, 0.75% zone. Broader gains, BEML, Castrol India, Godfrey Phillips, just putting out names with a lot of volumes. L&T Finance, Everready was up another 5%, so it's up what? I mean, almost 22% in the last 3 sessions. Aptech, 6%. J&K Bank was up. Equitas and Sobha were up very strongly as well. And there were losers as well. Seat lost, and there was Dish TV, which was down. Gujarat Gas, will come up on your screen. There was ICICI Securities, Edelweiss, and ABFRL, which were lower as well. So, in terms of the quantum of losses in the broader market, the intensity wasn't that much, but there were enough losers to cite as well. Lata.
Okay, I take your point. Even in this 149 gain of the Nifty, about 60 points have come only from Reliance and Infosys. So, yeah, it was a day led by the big boys. And as you came down the level, the participation was a bit weak. It could have been stronger for such a huge 1.3% rally. We did not see so many stocks participate. Advances just double that of decliners. But what do our guests make of the markets? Let me invite Mitesh. Your call, Mitesh. Clearly stay long even at these levels?
So, I think while the advanced decline ratio was only about 2:1 and you could have possibly desired more breadth, I think the breakout still does look good given the fact that the IT stocks rallied, the index heavyweights like ITC and Reliance look good on the charts. There's some wobbliness on the banking lot, but they're not looking extremely weak. But yeah, they could take a pause or they might underperform as the market still moves up. So my sense is that this getting past 10,850, 860 on the Nifty was quite a positive. I think that should pave the way for us testing the recent highs of 10,960, 980. And once that has been crossed, 11,100 could be tested on the upside. So the structures, at least on the short-term charts, has improved on the positive side. And until we start getting below 10,850 again, I would maintain a positive bias.
Okay, we move on to the second story, the second headline today. Reliance rose 3% ahead of its earnings on Thursday. The company became the top Nifty, one of the top Nifty gainers in trade today. It was, of course, pushed up by a positive outlook coming in from global brokerage firms. CLSA for one and others as well. Sonia is standing by with all of that and more on Reliance. Sonia, over to you.
Well, thanks a lot for that. Yes, Reliance is up ahead of its numbers on Thursday. Goldman Sachs has put out a report where they say that Q3 FY19 will be a stable quarter for Reliance. In fact, it could surprise investors on the upside given the volatility in the hydrocarbons business. But they are expecting the volatility in the hydrocarbons business to be offset by a very strong consumer business. And they say that the retail business is something that could really surprise on the upside. They expect Reliance's EBITDA to double by FY21 and they maintain a buy with a target price of 1380 on the stock. CLSA also echoes this view. In fact, they have a very high target price of 1,500 rupees. They say that there's a humongous $550 billion retail opportunity that beckons for Reliance Industries. And there are a couple of triggers which indicate that Reliance's retail revenues could rise over 12 times to $137 billion by 2028. Now, they're saying that Reliance is doing a couple of things. One is they are bundling up the product offerings with geo connections, and large physical store presence could give Reliance a big lead in the electronics space. Also, their wide portfolio of premium fashion brand joint ventures will keep it at the forefront as premiumization plays out. And what they're also doing is they're testing an e-commerce platform where they're listing a lot of mom and pop stores, and that could catapult their position in the food and grocery business. So they're expecting Reliance to get to 25% market share in the retail space versus low double digit currently. And that's the reason why the stock perhaps is also in the green today.
People will be more keen to know the results of the Reliance Retail and Reliance Jio. I don't think that Petchem will first, if I come on their old traditional business, I don't think that the Petchem will really be disappointing. Maybe the EBIT margin of closer to about 19.5%, though the reduction or maybe fall in the Brent prices has been seen in Q3 of about 11%. On that Petchem and refinery, I don't think that market will really be too perturbed, because already the refinery fall in the GRM have been factored in, but the Reliance Retail and Reliance Jio will really be the big kicker, because in Reliance Jio about 288 to 289 million subscriber, And in case of the Reliance Retail also, the growth is seen to be quite high. So overall, and maybe below line, I'm expecting some kind of positive surprises to be seen.
Okay. All right. There is a question, others I would have taken it to Sanjeev myself, but there is a question that's come on Reliance. Suresh has written that he has 300 shares of the company, which he bought at 940 rupees 4 years ago. He wants to know if he should hold or sell. Sanjeev?
Well, firstly, congratulations that you stayed put and your investment, even in a market which has done nothing, has been up 20%. Definitely stay put, and if need be on dips, buy more, because we think Reliance in this year itself could be hitting the 10 lakh crore club. And all the businesses are seeming to be doing excellent. We think inventory gains will see much more profitability going ahead, and crude prices here means that GRMs could actually surprise on the upside.
Okay, so that is RIL. We move on to the third story of the day. The CPI inflation fell to an 18-month low, but core CPI inflation remained high at 5.7%, pulling bond yields higher. Bank stocks underperformed in response, with public sector banks bearing the brunt. Canara Bank, IDBI Bank and Punjab National Bank all ended the day in the red.
Okay. Earlier today, we had spoken to a couple of economists, Sonal Verma, the Chief India Economist at Nomura, and Sajid Chenoy, Chief India Economist at JP Morgan, about the chances of RBI changing its stance or even cutting rates in February. Hear them out.
Core inflation will come off, and the current persistently high core inflation we are seeing is a result of specific idiosyncratic factors and some lagged effect of past high prices pass-through still going on, but that's not going to be a sustainable scenario. Therefore, for February, we do think that there's still a decent probability of the RBI changing its stance back to neutral, and our base case view is that there will be a rate cut, but only in the third quarter of 2019.
We've always believed growth is not as weak as we think it is. Headline inflation, at least until September, August to September, looks like it's going to be below 4%. So if you're an MPC member going into this meeting, you've come into with two soft prints, the next 2 to 3 quarters look below 4%. My chances, we certainly get a change of stance in February, and we get a rate cut either in February or April.
Okay, we've got a question coming in. Karthik Kamal has 488 shares of Federal Bank. He's bought them at 101 rupees and 50 paise. He's a long-term investor, wants to know if he should hold or sell. 488 Federal Bank shares at 101 rupees. Stock closed at 91 rupees today. Sanjeev, Federal Bank, what should one do?
So definitely hold. I think, it made a very, very long time bottom because of the Kerala floods at that 70-72. The results last quarter were much better than what the street makes. We think in the MSME, because of the relaxation norms, they should be a big benefit. And we think going ahead, mid-cap banks can actually lead from the front. So yes, Federal Bank at this 90 levels is very, very suitably poised. We have a year-end target of 125 on Federal Bank.
What's your best bank choice, Sanjeev?
IDFC Bank, Lata. Okay. The best amalgamation of MSME and retail loans, and I think Mr. Vaidyanathan will take it from there. We think this stock can even double in the next 2 years.
And Mitesh?
See, I think from trading point of view, I think, we can keep on differing time to time. But I do agree that there's something very positive happening on the long-term charts of IDFC Bank. I've been observing the stock since 38, 39 rupees. I think the first targets of 48 are being met. You might see some breather over here, but I think this is giving me a target of around 60 to begin with and 66 as the next target, which means that about 30% of upside can happen in the next 6 to 8 months.
Rally almost 150 points today on the index, and a lot of green across the board. We are discussing the stories which really mattered. We're taking your questions. We got through Three of the five headlines, so here's the fourth one. IT stocks hit top gear as the rupee weakened. The Nifty IT index outperformed key indices and ended up 3%. Wipro topped the charts, rising 5%. This comes on reports that that Wipro may consider a bonus issue proposal in its board meeting this week. TCS and Infosys were the other big gainers, which were up 3% each. We've actually got a caller now. Suresh Bingi is on the line with us from Bangalore, and he's got a question on Wipro. Suresh, thank you very much for calling in. Go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm holding Wipro 100 shares up to 85 rupees since 2 months.
And
Can I hold or sell?
Are you holding it for the longer term, Suresh, or?
No, short term.
You are a short-term investor?
Yes, please.
Okay, how do you define short-term? 3 months, 4 months, 6 months?
Yeah, 3 months.
Okay.
3 months.
Right. I think we pass to Mitesh on this, since it's a short-term view. Mitesh?
So actually, Lata, I do like the long-term charts over here. Last 5 months, if you look at the stock price movement, it's not managed to conclusively get past this 340, 345 zone, but the highs are within that 5.7 point kind of a range. I think the breakout should happen soon. So I think I would suggest him to extend his holding period for another 2-3 months. I think once it closes above 345, I think the stock would head towards 380, 390, and all this could happen within the first quarter, max by April end. So I think hold on to it. I think the structure has improved drastically over the last few months, and I think I'm just waiting for an upside breakout, some trigger which could possibly take it past the 340-45 range. And once that happens, another 15% could happen in the next 3 months. Okay,
so there you are, Suresh. If you held on a little longer, you're probably going to be, benefited. Expectation that if it crosses 345, it gets to put on another 50 rupees probably. So worth your wait is the technical advice. Fifth headline?
Absolutely. Stocks and news, that is. Yes Bank extended its gains today on reports that Deutsche Bank's Ravneet Gill probably leads the race to succeed Rana Kapoor as the Managing Director and CEO. On the other hand, we had ICICI Securities, which took a knock 6% lower after a disappointing third quarter set of results. Net interest income fell almost 18% year-on-year, and net profit declined 34% from the same period last year. We got a question, Lata.
Yeah. Harish has written to us from Uttar Pradesh. He holds Yes Bank shares, 2,000 of them, purchased at 220 rupees. Says he's a long-term investor and wants to know if he should hold or sell. I'll come to both of you. Sanjeev, you first.
Well, the sooner we get a new person at the helm, it will at least soothe a lot of calm. And, even though the stock has been totally a trader's delight, 160 on the downside and 200 on the upside, for the first time it's closed about that 200. So I think he'll get back his price and maybe more once we get more stability at the front. The brand is very good, and I think most of the divergences with the RBI are now settled. And going ahead, I would expect this to be a better performer once we get more clarity on the succession side.
Okay. Mitesh, a quick view as long as you can see.
Yeah. So I think with a very good setup, I think getting past the 195-200 zone was positive. Sanjeev also highlighted the breakout. I think, one from a long-term point of view, I think the lows which were made recently, 150, 160 zone should be the long-term lows. While you might not get a very big uptrend happening immediately, but I think a rally to about 230, which is his buying price, should at least happen. And I think if you can accumulate more with a long-term few years perspective, I think any declines closer to this 170, 150 zone would be very ideal if you get it again. And I believe that after this, some kind of consolidation, the stock should head towards 280 if you give it about 18 months kind of a time.
All right. Gentlemen, the other stock that was in the news was Zee Entertainment, reported a strong set of numbers for the third quarter. Net profit coming in over 550 crores against expectations of just 438. Look at the difference. Revenue and margins are beating estimates, but the numbers came after market hours. So there's a little bit of a rally left, I would assume, tomorrow. Mangalam is here with the key details.
That's right. So the stock gained in today's trading session. However, remember, it's been an underperformer. And if you take a look at the results, line by line, there has been a beat. Starting with the revenue, 2,167 crores is what the company posted. And that revenue comprised of ad revenue and subscription revenue. On the ad revenue front, the domestic ad revenue front, the company posted a 20.6% growth. The street was working with a range of 16 to 18%. The big positive came in from a smaller part of their revenue, which is domestic subscription. That jumped 29%. The street was working with, again, a range of just 15 to 17%. Together, the jump in the revenue took the EBITDA higher. We saw EBITDA growth and it came in around that 750 crore mark. The street was working with 710, all that leading to the big jump on the bottom line. However, as far as Zee is concerned, the stock is interestingly poised because it has underperformed. Valuations are attractive as compared to mean valuations. But then there are the two big triggers that the street will be watching out for. One, investment in their OTT app and the returns on that. And secondly, most importantly, the impending sale of the promoter's stake, whether any comment comes in from there or not. So far, none given in the press release. Let's see what happens.
Okay. Thanks, Mangalam. Mitesh, absolutely quick take on Zee. We have another story to tell.
See, I think looking at the short-term bounce back could go to about 480 odd levels to begin with.
Okay, very good. That's still some distance. And now to that story that we promised you, the one that's on our radar today. Power Discom's losses and overdues have mounted, and so we spoke with the Power Secretary, Ajay Kumar Bhalla. He says that a group of ministers is considering allowing power generators' dues to be met by bill discounting by PFC, REC, banks, etc., with a backstop from state governments. Take a look at his recipe.
From June to November, December, when I look at the figures, the outstanding dues quantum has increased by about 6,000 to 7,000 crores. Last year's losses were 15,000 crores after all, accounting for subsidies and all. Either it will be at the same level or maybe marginally more than that. I mean, it will be 17,000 crore or something. High-level empowered committee, which looked at certain sectoral issues vis-a-vis stress in the power sector. This is one of the recommendation of the committee that we can examine whether not only companies like PFC, REC, but even some of the banks can explore the possibility of bill discounting. So that recommendation is definitely on the table, and it is being examined in consultation with the Ministry of Finance. We also want some RBI intervention in this matter actually as a backstop arrangement and all, but that is where we are still in discussion with the Ministry of Finance.
Okay, that brings us to a close of the show. Mitesh and Sanjeev, thank you very much for staying with us, Lata.
And all of you guys out there, thank you for watching and have a great evening.